Okay, you're welcome back to OTB AM. Conán O'Donnell of the Toronto Arrows is joining me today. Conán, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Can't complain. Just rolled out
Yeah.
of bed there. So
Yeah. Um, we're complaining about the weather here. It's a brisk 4 degrees in Ireland at the moment. We're complaining, saying it's a bit too cold and stuff. Maybe you can put some perspective on us. What's the weather like in beautiful Toronto, Canada?
well, it's actually real sunny today, but it's -2 degrees at the same time. But it doesn't feel
Oh,
like it outside. Yeah, no, the weather's very different here. There was blizzards all last week, but I was actually away for a few days because we had a bye week, and my flight was actually cancelled on the way back. So
oh, brilliant.
unfortunately, couldn't make it back for training because of the runways are just filled with snow. So had
Excellent.
to
Just
miss Monday, so it wasn't too good. But
okay. Well,
um,
me deciding it's a bit too cold to be running. That, yeah, I feel even worse now.
Yeah,
Um,
we train in a tent in fairness, so
okay,
it's
it's
like
that
a
bad.
it's a pressurized cabin. Some days it is genuinely.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
but I think
Okay.
I'd rather it over the sports ground rain any day.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. Yeah. Okay, so weather and travel restrictions aside, you joined when did you arrive in Toronto?
On the 3rd of January. So
Okay.
was that like 2 months ago nearly? Just over two
Yeah.
months.
Wow. And how are you finding it so far? How are you settling in?
Yeah, I love it.
Okay.
I suppose a real exciting competition, a lot of travel around America. And then obviously an opportunity to play rugby professionally is always the goal and dream. So I'm really enjoying that. And I've never actually lived in a big city before, so kind of the
Brilliant.
opportunity to live in a city and play professional rugby there is kind of a no-brainer for me. So yeah, I'm over the moon with the decision so far.
Yeah, and you've plenty of Irish there with you at the Arrows. Am I right in thinking Shane O'Leary and Noel Reid, formerly of Leinster, are there with you as well?
Yeah, and then we have an Irish S&C coach as well who actually worked with Blackrock,
Oh, brilliant.
and Shane's his name as well. And he used to play in the Premiership with London Welsh, I think it was. London Welsh, not Scottish. Yeah.
Brilliant. So plenty of Irish there anyway to keep you company.
Yeah.
I've looked at the results for the Arrows. They haven't been like, great so far. It has to be said. But how does it work? How does Major League Rugby work to the layperson like myself?
Oh, I suppose.
Like, is it playoffs
Yeah,
at the end of the
I'm trying to
season?
think. There's not much difference to it. They have it's kind of that American, because we're the only Canadian team, but it is American League.
Hmm.
It has that like American twist on, the East and the West Conference. And
Okay.
we're in the East Conference, so we play every team home and away, I think, and then we have a one or two crossover games in between that, and
Right.
then top three in each conference go top four. I actually don't know. I should find that out. Hopefully, we'll be in it anyways. I'm
Yeah,
banking on it.
if you have extra games at the
Uh,
end of the season, oh, I guess we did well this year.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think
Um,
so. Yeah, top three, and then you go into like a semi final, and you win your conference as well. So
okay. So yeah, it's quite
and
North
then
American then.
basically like a Super Bowl at the end of it for the
Yeah,
MLR Shield.
right. And how do you find the travel? I've noticed that you've had a lot of away games so far. Is the travel a bit of a drag? Like it is, I don't know if people want to get a map of North America, it's pretty big.
Yeah, I suppose that's probably the beauty of the East Conference. A lot of your games are on the East Coast, so
Okay.
it's not as much travel as if we were to go to say San Diego. It would be like
Hmm.
probably like 6 or 7 hours. Is it? Could
Yeah.
be long. Could be longer. I've never actually flown it before, but that isn't too bad. Like I suppose the biggest trouble is because we're the only team that's internationally, so we have to travel a bit early in the airport. I find
Yeah.
the travel days itself drag out just because you have to go through pre-clearance.
Hmm.
And if it was a domestic flight, it would be okay. But the fact that it's not, we have to like do all that niggly detail and have visas organized and all that. But I suppose, and then obviously currency conversions because we're getting paid in Canadian dollars. That's probably the biggest niggly bit about being the only Canadian team. But I assume if you were a team in based in America, it wouldn't be as bad. Like I suppose traveling the URC, you do a lot of travel as well, or even if you play in the Challenge Cup or well, I've never played in the Highland Cup. it's the same. You probably have to have big bus journeys in France away from the airports and
Mm.
long days away. So I'm kind of used to it at this stage, but
Yeah. I
don't really
mean,
think too much into it.
no, you've one thing's for sure, you've done plenty of travel over your
Yeah,
playing career. So
few air miles racked up at this stage.
yeah. Um, so just for like, I think it's like my brother's really into MLR and he's a real rugby hipster. So I know you've only been there for 2 months, but it's anything jumped out to you about the rugby culture over in North America so far? Anything that's sort of different to how it would be here?
I think you just have to listen to the commentary for a few minutes to realize it's a bit yeah, it's a bit different. I won't say anything, but
No.
just take a listen for yourself. The rugby is very enjoyable though.
Okay.
It's quite a very forward oriented game. I've noticed, kind of similar to like kind of English rugby, just a lot of mauling, scrummaging, and yeah, very different because I was in New Zealand before and it was very like kind of fast, high intensity, a lot of ball and play, but kind of gone full circle again back to that kind of forward oriented rugby.
Right. And what made you decide to go to Toronto? I mean, was it just a case of here's the offer, I've only one career, I'll just go here and see what happens? Or what was the thought
Yeah,
process?
to be honest, I was kind of about to hang up the boots in December. I booked a flight home from New Zealand and was just going to go home for Christmas, enjoy the Christmas, and then kind of assess what I'll do work wise after rugby. And then, yeah, I kind of had was about to go home and reach out to people and see what was out there. But then this opportunity came up. I was like talking to Shane O'Leary, and he goes, "Oh, do you want to come to Toronto?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay." So he asked the coaches, and then they just like, "Oh, rang me up. What's your plan?" I was like, "Oh, well, I'm going back to Ireland now, but I've been in New Zealand the last few years." And then they were like, "Do you want to come play for us?" And I was like, "It's only 6 months." So I said, "Yeah, why not?" And then I can reassess after that again. Might as well keep the dream alive for another few months.
Yeah, wow. That's I didn't realize it had come to that point. Gosh, that's incredible. Um,
Yeah,
so like because you're from Sligo originally, and you would have played in Sligo Rugby Club. I read this as well. You started out as a winger. For those of you who don't know, Conan plays a tight head prop. Is that correct?
yeah, either or, tight head or loose head.
Tight header. And so winger to prop doesn't really seem like a lateral move. How did that happen?
Yeah, so I was a young, skinny kid sprinting in the community games back in the day,
Yeah.
genetic freak. Those fast twitch fibers. But then Four Star Pizza came to Sligo and probably indulged too much in it as a young fella. And then, yeah, probably probably a blessing in disguise. If something tells me I wouldn't be playing professional rugby as a winger.
Yeah,
But no,
because I remember seeing you play like for Connacht and schools rugby and stuff, and I was sort of surprised at the level of technical skill you had. There was obviously some sort of backs history there. Um,
no, I don't think it was from that now, to be honest. I was quite young when I moved, so
right, okay.
probably just would have been through good coaching and stuff like that would have developed that.
And then you were involved with the under 20s way back in like 2015, 2016. I was just going through the squad that you were a part of, like some of the names like Hugo Keenan, Stockdale, James Ryan, Jimmy O'Brien, Andrew Porter. I mean, you'd wonder where they are now. When you played alongside those guys and growing up, and obviously the talent you would have been playing with in the Connacht Academy and against sometimes, did you have a sense that they were going to be like the world class players that they are now, or is that obvious from that stage?
It really is, yeah. I
Mm.
think, especially in James Ryan's case, I think we all knew he was destined for what he's done, really.
Okay.
Uh, but even at schools, rugby, because I would have played under 18 schools with him as well,
Mm.
and he was kind of like just such a leader. And I think
Leadership.
he had all the qualities. You just looked at him, and you're like, okay, he's the man. He's going places.
Yeah. Wow.
And
Just
then the other
leadership.
boys, obviously,
Okay.
well,
And is
yeah,
it?
he was
Yeah.
very good, hardworking, and was just very like diligent.
Hmm.
You could just tell he kind of had the tools in the armory for it.
That's very interesting. Because you assume that leadership just comes later on in your career, but when, like, as you mature, but he was captain of that 2016 side that went really well at the World Cup. Um, yeah, it's remarkable that he had that already. And were they just really good specimens? Were like that kind of Michael's crew just incredible athletes from the off?
I think so. Sounds like they just probably kind of like the rugby nursery, isn't it? They must be doing something right in that school
Yeah.
because it seems to just be churning out players every year. I think they had there was a weird stat there, wasn't it? It was like they had like six Ireland under 20 captains in a row.
Wow, I didn't see that. That's incredible.
Yeah, because even the year before, Nick McCartney was our captain as well.
Okay, the scrum half.
Yeah, yeah, and he went to
Oh,
Michael's too. And
wow.
then I'm pretty sure the year after was a Michael fellow too.
Yeah, it's it's famously the conveyor belt, but I didn't
Yeah,
realize it was that stark. Jeez.
nah, it's pretty.
Okay.
They must be doing something right there.
Yeah, there's something in the water there. um, Come back to Connacht. Why did you end up leaving? Was it just a case of um they weren't going to renew your contract, or did you want to take another adventure, or how did that come about?
Yeah, it probably just wasn't in my hands to be honest. I had the option to stay, I would have. And then they just probably had a couple of young lads coming through and probably didn't see a future for me, so didn't renew my contract. And then I was pretty fortunate enough to actually get that whole some of things pop up overnight, and then that kind of just helped me keep playing. But I suppose if that didn't happen, I probably would have been, yeah, I don't know what would have happened. I didn't really have anything else at the time, so
Yeah. Because like looking at your CV, I implore anybody to go off and have a look at the clubs you've been at. But just very quickly, you went to Japan obviously after that, and then it was, I think, Crusaders and Counties Manukau, and then you went up to Whangarei to Northland and played with the Highlanders as well. Now you're in Toronto. That's the CV of a well-traveled adventurer. Like you know, like I know your sister teaches languages and has a real appreciation for culture and has lived abroad a good bit as well. Is that something that's in you too? Did you just want to look? I've got this tool here, this opportunity to see as much of the world as possible. I'm going to go wherever, or was it a case of you just go where the opportunities are, or was there any sort of forethought?
it kind of just happens.
Okay.
Yeah, I suppose I was like when you're growing up, the dream is to stay in Galway and play for Connacht as long as you can, and then obviously hope to kick on to higher honours. But then I think things have probably worked out for the better. To be honest, I probably had an
Oh, I would
amazing time.
definitely say that. My
Yeah,
God.
yeah. Looking back at it now, I'm like, geez, I'm kind of happy it didn't work out the way I wanted to.
Yeah.
No, I've had a great time. I loved it.
Brilliant.
Obviously, I'm
Yeah.
still living Toronto, and then if anything happens after this, then great. If not, well, I've had awesome times. So I kind of have to be thankful for everything that's happened. I know I'm
Yeah.
very lucky. Like I know a lot of people probably are better than me or work hard, slightly harder than me, and then might get the same opportunities I have. So I'll probably just have to enjoy it and make the most of it because a lot of them have been once in a lifetime opportunities. So yeah,
Yeah.
you'd be a fool to turn them down, wouldn't you?
For sure. Like I was looking at the people you've been working with. You played with Sonny Bill Williams in the Mitre 10 Cup, for instance. Were you? Did you ever cross paths with Scott Robertson when you were at the Crusaders?
Yeah, so I was kind of in and out of that like environment for about two and a half seasons. So I know him pretty well. Nah,
Okay.
we get on great. He's a legend. And then I remember my first time in New Zealand. Obviously, I wouldn't have known much about New Zealand rugby. I don't actually watch whole pile of rugby to be honest. But
Mm,
it was when I moved to counties. It's in the middle of nowhere in Pukekohe. But I remember just like looking at the TV because I was just been in the with the Sunwolves, so I think we got knocked out early and we didn't go to the playoffs or anything like that. So I kicked into training with counties, and I remember just Crusaders bet the Jaguars in the final. I remember
okay.
it was just on the news, and they had doing the little breakdance thing. Have you seen
Yes.
it?
Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
was just like in my head, I was like, wow, imagine being there. That'd be the coolest thing ever to witness. Like this just like unbelievable breakdancing and everyone just sing along. And then little did I know, like 8 months later, I was in that circle witnessing him breakdance when they won the final the year after. So it was, I was just like thinking, geez, I was in Pukekohe a few months ago, just wishing I was there. But I know I wasn't playing or anything, but being involved in the squad was pretty cool.
That must have been incredible. But like the amount of people you've been under now, you've worked with Pat Lam as well. Like, surely coaching is like you're made for coaching at this stage. The amount of stuff you must have absorbed at this, even at
Yeah,
26.
I mightn't have the ability, but I definitely have like the rugby knowledge after having all these great coaches. Like I've had the best coaches in the world over the last 2, 3 years, even longer, 4 years, and even
Yeah.
Pat before that. So I've just, yeah, I feel I never really thought about going to coaching until maybe a year ago. I'm like, oh, maybe I should. Like, I have this all this knowledge from all these lads. I probably should utilize it a bit more. But
Yeah, even
we'll
even
see.
if it's like just to sit in the corner and talk about like everywhere you've been, I think that'd be useful.
I
Um,
know.
like give us a sense of like the New Zealand rugby culture because it's world famous. You know, we talk about this is rugby country in Ireland, and people get really annoyed about it. That is rugby country, and it's famously rugby country. But was when you were going over, did the culture of how rugby is treated there, was it exactly what you expected, or were you surprised in any way about how much or even how little it bleeds into daily life? Like, what is it like?
I think it just depends on where you are in the country in itself. It's kind of like Ireland. Some places are GA strongholds, hurling strongholds, and then obviously like South Dublin will be the rugby stronghold, but then and Limerick as well. But yeah, New Zealand, I suppose, where you are, like, because some places are just like in the middle of nowhere and they just live and breathe rugby. Some places they even like prefer rugby league, depending on where you are and like the demographic there as well. But I found in Christchurch, especially, it's like just a big rugby bubble there. Like everyone loved it. Like
Mm.
it was just everything. I think probably shows why the Crusaders and Canterbury have been so successful over the years. And then yeah, I don't know. It is like big there, but I feel like it's not as big as it used to be. Like even if
Okay.
you look at the dying attendances, I think it's probably New Zealand's probably there's kind of more to do there than there was probably a few years ago, and people are probably just like not looking at rugby as much, but it is big there. It genuinely is, and the rugby culture in itself and teams and stuff is great as well. Boys just froth it like.
Yeah. What do you think that's about? Why do you think there are dying attendances?
Uh, I think a lot of people actually used to prefer like NPC, the Mitre 10 Cup or whatever it's called now. Has a
Hmm.
new name every year. But
Yeah.
apparently there was like massive crowds back in the day, like
Okay.
north of like 15 to 20,000 in like some rival games. And then obviously Super Rugby came in and that dwindled because of Super Rugby. And then I think probably the South African teams going out, and people are probably just the same thing over and over again. People are probably just like, oh, kind of want something different. And then obviously, like nowadays there's like so much social media and obviously more television deals going on in rugby as well. So people probably rather go at home, watch it there. Or little kids probably just prefer doing their own thing, like gaming or going on TikToks and all that. So I suppose the interest, there's just more general interest for people. So rugby is probably just not as like appealing to some people, probably because there's so much to do out there now.
Yeah. It's like the heart is gone from it or something. Certainly that's the line that's sort of peddled usually. When they take you in and when they see what you're about, are there things they're looking for out of Irish players? I know when uh, All Black export comes over to Munster, say, there's certain characteristics of like this huge big player who's also really technically gifted. Are there things that we're famous for in the rest of the world that we don't know about? That it's like, oh, an Irish player is going to bring this to my team. That's a certainty.
Probably just the work rate, and
Okay.
then maybe a bit of technicality as well. I suppose I would have learned a lot from my coaches in Ireland about just the importance of like knowing your role and being very technical, kind of robotic at times, but it kind of works. Yeah, probably just the work rate is probably the big thing we're known for, and then just that attention to detail.
Yeah. Um, so I saw you said that your ambition still is to come back and play for Ireland at some point. Let's say tomorrow morning, Andy Friend or Pete Wilkins give you the call and say, we need injury cover badly. Are you on the first flight home, or are you going to stick out the MLR season, or what would you do in that situation? A
Probably shouldn't
straightforward
answer
question with a horrible answer, I'm
that.
sure.
Yeah, all depends if suppose because I'm under contract, it all depends if you're allowed to be released and all that sort of stuff. So
Mhm.
power isn't in my hands, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. But you still like you're 27 by the time the World Cup rolls around. If you have a Johnny Sexton trajectory, that's like three World Cups. You still have a chance of playing for Ireland. That it's still very much in the back of your mind that you'd love to come back here.
I
You
mean, it's
wouldn't just
been
stick it out.
ambitious, but yeah, I suppose it's always the dream, isn't it? I
Hmm.
suppose every professional rugby player wants to represent their country, but at the moment, I'm not. I'm not being any delusional. I know it's not really achievable when you're playing in Canada. So obviously, a few things have to go in my favor for that to happen. But if not, sure, look.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, if you have to trade it for like you've done a lot as well in your
Yeah,
career. It's been incredible. Finally, I don't know if you're following much of the Six Nations this year, but there's a big old game in Murrayfield this weekend. Um, do you think we're going to beat the Scots?
I think we should. Yeah.
Yeah,
I suppose we have the ability in the team there. So I think a few boys have come back from injuries, haven't they? I
yeah.
haven't been watching the news too much, but I've seen a few headlines. So
Few guys you know actually. You would have played with them at under 20 level. They're doing well. If you didn't know, a few of them.
yeah, I know they've won every game, haven't they?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, doing quite well. I mean, with you there, who knows? Could push on to bigger and greater things. But look, that's uh, ifs and buts and whatnot. But listen, Conan, it's been absolutely brilliant talking to you. Best of luck for the rest of the season. And enjoy that Toronto sunshine.
Cheers. Thanks a million. Have a good evening.